So on tap for today, it's Monday, June 3rd. We've got a handful of patients coming in today. Trump is a little French bulldog, I guess big French bulldog that we saw a couple weeks ago for non-ambulatory tetraparesis. So he was unable to walk in all four limbs. He's coming in today for a suture removal. We've got a couple new consults today. Creature is a 14-year-old pug that I saw back in 2015 for rear limb weakness. Seeing again today for rear limb weakness. We are seeing Duke, a Pomeranian that has some rear limb weakness, so we'll assess that today. After that, a 6-year-old Yorkie that has been having some signs consistent with an ear infection, but now is bumping into things. Big concern there would be, is this more like inflammatory brain disease? And then Frisco is a 11 to 12-year-old beagle with facial nerve paralysis, so he's droopy on the right side of his face. So that's what it looks like in the morning. As you'll see, things change very, very quickly throughout the day.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I am now a second-term veterinary student in my first year at St. George's University. I have been working in the vet clinic since I was about 15. Always wanted to be a vet my whole life. I have a special interest in rehab, and because of that, I would like to do a lot of neuro just to know what happens prior and hopefully actually catch an interest in neuro. So I'm super excited to be here and I can't wait to see what Dr. Wong shows me.
How long are you going to be here for?
I'm here for 4 weeks, so it should be a good time.
Anything in particular you're hoping to see while you're here?
An MRI,
okay.
And I would like to see a few surgeries because I have never.
I hope in the
I've
next
never
4 weeks
seen one.
we can manage an MRI for you.
Thanks, guys.
If we don't, we're in trouble.
I've never seen a brain or spinal surgery, so it should be exciting.
So obviously he looks much more comfortable. He's moving his head around well.
It's good to him to do that?
Yeah, I mean, to a point. To me, it means that he's comfortable enough, that he's not in pain anymore, that he moves around like that. So we don't need to, every time he moves, jump on top of him and say, oh my gosh, don't do that. We don't want him, when you get home from work at the end of the day, he's going to be excited, he's going to want to jump. Those are the things that we don't want to happen. But if he's comfortable enough that he rolls on his back and gives you his belly, that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
All I'm looking for right now is the trend. He's, 99% better. He doesn't need to be 100% at this point. He's going to continue to improve, but I expect him to make a...
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much. I'm very happy.
Yeah, no, he looks awesome. So this is Trump the French Bulldog's MRI of his neck. This is what we call a sagittal image. So we're looking at him in profile. So his head would be over here. This is the underside of his neck, the back of his neck. So this is his brain, his spinal cord running from his head down to his tail, which would be down there. MRIs, you can see the bones, you can see the discs, and you can see the spinal cord. And if we look here, the spinal cord is nice and tall here, but when we get over this disc here, C23, there is a bump here that's pressing up on the spinal cord and squishing it. If we think of him as a loaf of bread and we make slices, that's what this picture is over here. So this is the MRI of his neck in cross section. His rear end would be coming out towards us and his head would be going into the wall. So again, slice of bread looked flat end on. This is the spinal cord, and this picture is made right where this green line is, back in the normal spinal cord. But as I scroll forward, you can see the line moves closer to the abnormality and we get a new picture. And we start to see that the spinal cord starts to get squashed. There's this dark thing right on the bottom. That's the disc that's compressing the spinal cord. So the surgery that was performed was what was called a ventral slot. We basically made a window in the bottom of the bone here and removed the disc material, relieving the compression. That's why he got better so quickly, because he had a pretty sizable disc extrusion and the surgery went great. So.
She might get tired, or I throw the ball 2 times, she runs a little bit, I don't throw it real far, and she's happy. However, this time she was standing on both. That was a very weird look, because she's standing on both, and I've just never seen her legs bent like that, and she's trying to balance. She was teetering on two legs instead of holding one leg up. So I don't understand that. So she did not do that normal thing.
Tired easily, so that made me think that this was more peripheral nervous system, or nerve and muscle, we call neuromuscular. She was very short and choppy, kind of tired easily. So things that we think of there are things like polymyositis, things like myasthenia gravis. We submitted a acetylcholine receptor antibody, so a blood test that tests for myasthenia gravis. We also gave an injection of medication that sometimes can help dogs with myasthenia gravis stand up and walk, called a neostigmine challenge. Mia was a 6-year-old Yorkshire Terrier that presented for blindness. She actually originally went to her veterinarian for being off balance, and had had a couple other episodes of balance abnormalities over the last few months. So high concern for inflammatory brain disease, but there are some other things that can cause this sort of stuff. The owner wanted to meet with the ophthalmologist first, which is not wrong, so they're going to get their ophthalmologist appointment just to make sure that the blindness isn't because of the eyes. But 6-year-old Yorkie, blindness, balance problems, just suggests inflammatory brain disease. And then we actually saw 2 dogs that both had facial nerve paralysis. One was a beagle with facial nerve paralysis on the right side. One was a Cocker Spaniel with facial nerve paralysis on the left side. So both of those, facial nerve paralysis tells us that there's a problem in the facial nerve. The facial nerve is cranial nerve 7. It's responsible for muscles of facial expression, so blinking the eyes, lifting the eyebrow, lifting the ears, pulling the jowls back to smile. So when we have a problem in that, we see a droopy ear, a droopy eye that doesn't blink, droopy side of the face. The possible causes that we considered for both of these dogs were things like idiopathic facial nerve paralysis, ear infections, hypothyroidism. Things like tumors, strokes, infection, meningitis are all possible, but just a little less likely given their history and progression. So plan for both of those. We talked about doing blood tests, x-rays, and MRI of the brain. Both owners are going to have a think about things. We did some blood work and x-rays on one of them. The other one is going to have a think about things.
It went great. As a first-term veterinary student, there was a lot of things that he said today that I had actually learned in school. So I was able to make those connections and really see what I'm learning and put it into practice. So it's actually been a great review for me, and I'm pretty excited about it.